Welcome to Flushing Interfaith Council's Unity Walk. This year is our first virtual Unity Walk. My name is Nancy Bruno. I'm Flushing Interfaith Council's president and will be one of your hosts for today. And I'd like to introduce to you our co-host, Adam Carroll.
I'm Adam Carroll, Vice President of the Flushing Interfaith Council. We are here online to show that despite the pandemic, that interfaith dialogue is an essential service, and we will persist in our efforts to build bridges of understanding and mutual support in the community. Special thank you to Rabbi Gail and Suksavat Sukasiam from the Free Synagogue, Rabbi Vidyanat from the Hindu Temple Society of North America, Harpreet Singh Wahan from the Sikh Center of New York, Venerable Yu Wang and Helen Long from the International Buddhist Progressive Society, and John Cho and Friends Meeting House of Flushing. Queen's Interfaith Unity Walk arose in response to post 9/11 challenges and developed from a model in Brooklyn called Children of Abraham Peace Walk, which worked to bring churches, mosques, and synagogues together for more than a decade. The Flushing Interfaith Council Unity Walk goal is to bring together the diverse community of Flushing to share culture and beliefs in an effort for all to embrace our commonalities and differences. We begin our virtual Unity Walk with the Free Synagogue of Flushing, located on Casena Boulevard in Flushing, welcoming Suksavat Sukasiam and the synagogue. Please write in the chat if you have any questions, also for any of the speakers, and at the end of the full program, there will be time for direct response.
The Free Synagogue of Flushing was established in 1917 and is the oldest Reformed synagogue in Queens and Long Island. So the synagogue has quite a lot of history. To put that in perspective, we've seen 2 pandemics, 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the Great Recession. Flushing is also a neighborhood that has experienced something similar to what happened down on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. The synagogue was founded by the Hebrew Women's Aid Society. The group provided comfort and aid to the small Jewish population living in Flushing at the time. Through their services, they saw a need to establish a religious school operating on liberal lines while focusing on making better Jews and better Americans. On October 31st, 1917, the Society sent out a letter asking recipients to attend a meeting to discuss the creation of a new school. It was estimated the cost would be around $500, or $10,000 today. By the end of the night, they raised $1,500. Pretty amazing. A lot of the donations came from wealthy Jewish merchants with businesses in Flushing. With their goal met and with the excess funds, it was suggested that the society establish a synagogue. And so, here we are today. Flushing is one of the oldest settlements in what is now New York City. It is also one of the original 3 colonial settlements comprising Queens. Flushing traces its roots to English settlers who received a patent in 1654 from Mr. Stuyvesant, governor of the Dutch colony. Early in the town's history, Flushing residents stood together in support of a local Quaker community to protest the religious intolerance of Governor Stuyvesant. They drafted a document called the Flushing Remonstrance. The document from 1657 remains as one of the earliest published defenses of freedom of religion in the United States. If you've been to Flushing, you'll notice the streets are named after various plants, but also 2 well-known horticulturists. During the 17th century, Flushing developed as a major center for horticulture. William Prince started Flushing's first nursery in 1737. Samuel Parson also had established a nursery in 1838. Parsons Nursery also provided trees to the city's first public parks, among them including Central Park and Prospect Park. As in the rest of Queens, Flushing's fortunes evolved with the improvements in transportation. the introduction of regular train service to New York City in 1854 led to the post-Civil War boom in luxury home construction for wealthy New Yorkers. The extension of the trolley lines into Flushing from 1888 to 1899 and the electrification of the Long Island Railroad helped turn Flushing into a commuter suburb. From the 1890s until the outbreak of World War I, Flushing saw its estates divided up into new suburban developments. Perhaps the biggest impetus to the growth of Flushing and Queens in general was the opening in 1909 of the Queensboro Bridge that connected Queens and Midtown Manhattan. Also significant was the extension of the IRT into the borough during the 1910s. Flushing was touted as a place where the home life, the social life, and the religious life are at their best. Over the next 2 decades, the population of Queens mushroomed by 750%. The boom continued well into the 1920s. Although the city's Jewish population was enormous, the pre-World War I Jewish population of Queens was quite small. In 1913, New York City's Jewish population was estimated at around 1.3 million. Of that number, only 23,000 lived in Queens. Synagogues played a major role in the life of New York City's Jewish population. By 1918, New York's Jewish population was estimated at between 1 and 1.5 million and was served by 700 synagogues. In that year, West Queens had just 1 synagogue in 1 building, while East Queens had 18 synagogues, only 5 of which had their own buildings. Flushing's first synagogue was most likely the Temple Gates of Prayer, a conservative synagogue established in 1902. The Free Synagogue of Flushing was the neighborhood's second. Much of Jewish immigration was stopped with the passage of the Immigration Act of 1924. It wasn't until post-World War II that Flushing's Jewish population started to take off again, with returning Army GIs buying homes and starting families, but also those seeking a suburban lifestyle. The post-war boom was considered to be the synagogue's golden years, with membership at its peak. Especially once the aftermath of the Holocaust was revealed, synagogues saw participation among Jews jump from 20% to 60%. So, here's the million-dollar question. What does it mean to be free? The Free Synagogue of Flushing took its name from the Free Synagogue, founded by Rabbi Stephen Wise in Manhattan. It all started when in 1905, Rabbi Wise was approached to become the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel, perhaps New York City's wealthiest and most prominent Reform congregation. But he had run afoul of the congregation's leaders by giving a trial sermon on social justice and various progressive causes that directly challenged the thinking and doings of several prominent members. In the negotiations that followed, Wise insisted that if he took the pulpit, he would be free to speak his mind. The answer he received? The pulpit of Temple Emmanuel has always been and is subject to and under the control of the Board of Trustees. That meant that he could not accept the position, but he had already decided to create a new kind of synagogue, a free synagogue. In 1906, in an interview with the New York Tribune, Rabbi Wise laid out 3 core principles that are now a part of the Free Synagogue of Flushing's heritage. First, no assigned pews, a democratic arrangement which recognizes the equality of all worshipers and does not discriminate in favor of position or wealth. Second, no fixed dues. The synagogue is supported by voluntary contributions, members being expected to contribute in accordance with their means. And finally, a free pulpit. The occupant of the pulpit, regular or visiting, has the complete freedom of speech and assumes sole responsibility for their utterances. The congregation, on the other hand, having the right to accept or reject, in whole or in part, the message delivered. In a word, the synagogue, in its spirit and organization, is free, democratic, and liberal. Rabbi Wise intended to reach out to unaffiliated Jews. He envisioned the Free Synagogue as a place of moral instruction for Jews. His approach to the service included significant changes. such as the elimination of the Torah reading and the scheduling of Shabbat services on Sunday to supplement those traditionally held on Friday evening and Saturday morning. And that was because many workers didn't have the standard 2-day weekend until the Fair Labor Standards Act in 1938. But to Wise's mind, the most important aspect of the Free Synagogue would be its devotion to the cause of ethical teaching and social justice. Since 1917, the synagogue has always been a place of action. As you already know, one of the founding principles is freedom of the pulpit. This meant that we had many guest clergy from various religious backgrounds delivering sermons that addressed the needs of their community. And soon after, their needs became a focus of the Jewish community. Our pulpit has played host to many civil rights leaders, politicians, musicians, and many other personalities, savory and unsavory. Through social action, the synagogue has been a part of many historical events and moments that have shaped American society. From suffrage to war efforts, disease and famine, civil rights, worker rights, and gender equality. The synagogue has also hosted many outside organizations, providing them with space to pursue action. During the Great Depression, the synagogue was turned into a soup kitchen, and during World War II, the synagogue served as a casualty center for the Red Cross. And up until recently, we provided space for an abused women's group providing counseling. Most of their clientele were women from the Muslim faith. Eventually, they outgrew the space and moved on. Thanks to our new rabbi, Rabbi Gale, our synagogue is poised to become a sanctuary within a sanctuary, meaning that the Free Synagogue has become a sanctuary for counterculture. We are the antithesis of what we are seeing in today's society, which is bigotry, divisiveness, hatred, and prejudice. So that kind of gives you an idea of how far we've come as a congregation, but also where we're headed in the next 100 years. The experience made me rethink what sanctuary means today. The Free Synagogue of Flushing is comprised of 2 buildings. One is a pre-Civil War mansion, and the second a sanctuary built in the early 20th century. The Samuel Vernon Mann property is a 19th century mansion that the synagogue used for services in the early years and before moving into a new multi-purpose built sanctuary completed in 1927. In 1917, the congregation first met at the Odd Fellows Hall. Then, in 1921, the congregation acquired the Samuel Vernon Mann property. Their immediate plans called for the remodeling of the first floor of the homestead so that the building could be used as a place of worship. The Mann property is over 161 years old. It includes a large house, parts of which date back to 1859, but the building appeared to have been remodeled in the 1890s. Based on the evidence from historical maps, a frame house with a French-style roof and 2.5 stories tall was built on the site in 1859 for Flushing merchant Robert Carter. It was purchased in 1870 by Mary Hoffman, the wife of attorney and jurist Murray Hoffman. He's best known for the Hoffman Rule, which created a formula regarding property value and is still in use today. In 1891, the property passed on to Samuel Vernon Mann, husband to the daughter of the Onderdonk Cogswell family. Mann, a prominent currency broker, collected 18th century furniture. So it's probably at this time that the colonial revival style alterations to the house were made. In 1921, when Mann sold the house to the synagogue, the New York Times reported on the sale, describing the house as a 15-room house considered to be one of the best examples of Southern colonial architecture on Long Island. Today, the building houses our offices, our current religious school, and space for organizations providing community service. Between 1923 and 1930, Flushing's Jewish community quadrupled in size. It went from around 1,000 to over 4,000. By 1924, the newly acquired Mann Mansion was already too small for the growing congregation. In a letter from the congregation's president, Mr. Siemens explained the need for a new building. He said, "As a member of the congregation, you undoubtedly recognize that the last High Holy Day service, and since then, the need for larger quarters, and those services, there were 330 people, while our building only seats 120. Even on Friday evenings, often there have not been enough seats to accommodate our members. The Sunday school fills every nook and corner of the building to overflowing, not alone as to seats, but standing as well. So much so that our rabbi has announced that no more children may be registered, as they cannot be accommodated. The building committee requested that an architect by the name of Maurice Corlin prepare plans for the new facilities. The building would have a seating capacity of upwards of 650 in the sanctuary, and downstairs a social hall accommodating 400. The committee estimated that the cost of the new building would be approximately $165,000 to $175,000, around $2.6 million today. The total cost ended up being around $250,000. The Free Synagogue Sanctuary is an example of neoclassical revival style building. Its design is typical of early 20th century modern American synagogues, combining classical details with Jewish symbols. Above the main entrance to the colonnade, there's an English inscription from Isaiah, "For my house shall be a house of prayer for all people," a quotation particularly appropriate for the mission of the Free Synagogue. Inside the sanctuary is a large domed space without a separate gallery to serve as a women's section, reflecting the egalitarian theological position of the Reform movement. The leaded glass windows with Jewish themes add light to the space, while the crowning shallow dome that covers most of the space has a leaded glass skylight with a Jewish star in the center. Another feature of the synagogue includes a pipe organ, which became central to early Free Synagogue Sabbath services. The synagogue is one of only a few early surviving 20th century synagogues with a traditional pipe organ. Today, the sanctuary is still in use and hosts many Jewish life cycle rituals and celebrations. Up through the 1950s, Flushing still had a large Jewish presence. A long-serving rabbi said that when he had arrived at the synagogue, the membership included more than 500 families. Flushing had many Jewish-owned businesses, as well as delicatessens and kosher butchers, like the early days of the Lower East Side. In recent decades, however, while the Jewish population of Queens has grown enormously, the Jewish population of Flushing has declined significantly. As the population in Flushing evolved and the Jewish community changed, the Free Synagogue worked to adapt to the changing environment. The synagogue had to take a look at the cultural and social integration of American Jews, but also, what does a Jew look like today? Going on to 103 years, the Free Synagogue has been a bastion of liberal thought and social activism. The congregation continues to welcome all people, interfaith couples, straight, gay, every ethnicity and heritage, spanning the generations, with an elderly contingent as well as families with young children. Today, the synagogue remains a vibrant Reform congregation, drawing congregants from many parts of the borough. The synagogue reflects the history of Jews in Queens in the 20th century, especially the history of the Reform movement. The Free Synagogue remains a vital part of its living history, of its neighborhood, and of its city, and is intent on being a part of the neighborhood's future. Thank you for listening and learning about the synagogue's history. Please visit our website and take a virtual tour of our sanctuary. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks. And we have actually Suk's with us live, and wanted to invite you to say a few words. And that was very rich description of the history of the congregation and how it mirrors the changes in the community. Suk's.
Yep. Thank you for watching the video. This video was also produced for the Queens Historical Society, but I thought it would be relevant to kind of explain where we are and how we got here, and especially in a neighborhood that if the founding members were to kind of come back and they would say, what the heck happened? Well, I want them to know that we've changed, and as every neighborhood, it changes. But the organizations that exist in Flushing really make this neighborhood so much stronger. And I'm glad to be a part of the Interfaith Council, especially our new rabbi, Rabbi Gail.
Well, the council really appreciates the strong, but we're going to have more time for more exchanges, maybe at the end of the full program.
Sounds
if
good.
people have questions, they can put the questions into the chat or into the Q&A. And now I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Hello. So we're going to continue our virtual walk, and we're going to go to the Hindu Temple Society of North America, located on Bound Street. And I would like to introduce to you Ravi, and I'm going to try to pronounce your last name, Vandinath.
Hi, this is Ravi Vaidyanath from the Hindu Temple. So ours was the first Hindu temple in the entire continent. And we have devotees, members across the globe. So let us see, I have put everything in our video. Jack can play the video now.
Namaste everyone. We want to welcome you for this virtual tour of the New York Ganesh Temple, also known as the Sri Mahavallabha Ganapati Devasthanam, established on January 26, 1970. We opened our doors to the public in 1977, but before we show you around the temple, I want to take a few moments to talk about our unique location in the heart of Flushing and tell you more about our roots. Flushing has a documented history of about 350 years. John Bound's heroic efforts paved way for people of all faiths to practice their religions freely outside of their homes without fear of being persecuted. The historic achievement of obtaining religious freedom set a kind of precedent, and Flushing became a haven for religious freedom and tolerance. Queens now is the most ethnically diverse county in the U.S., with Flushing at the epicenter, and new waves of immigrants have brought new traditions. Bound Street, in particular, is now a home of religious plurality and tolerance. In 1890, the First Baptist Church of Flushing was built on what was called a park branch on Bound Avenue and Hitchcock Park. It was described as a neat chapel and was depicted as such in the 1904 Atlas of Queens. In 1919, the structure then became the site of the First Church of the Nazarene until 1954, when it moved to another location nearby, and the old building was sold to become the Russian Orthodox Church of Holy Annunciation. The Russian Orthodox Church decided to move to a larger space, and hence the property went on the market for the last time in 1971. The Hindu Temple Society of North America purchased the property to establish its temple. While the planning was set to build a temple, worship commenced with blessings of Kanchi Shankaracharya, who offered a small Ganesh idol made of arka, also known as giant milkweed in English. It does not decompose. Till this date, it is preserved as a presiding deity. The construction of the temple began in 1973 with the unwavering support of the community and was completed in 1977. Being the first of its kind construction, especially with the stringent weather conditions of New York, a group of roughly 40 Sthapatis, or temple artisans, worked together hand in hand with the American Union laborers. The temple got built, and the consecration ceremony was set for July 4th, 1977. The day was considered most auspicious Muhurtam Day, as per the Hindu calendar, and also coincides with the American Independence Day. During the construction process and post-consecration of the temple, there were considerable amounts of vandalism from a few misleading elements from the neighborhood, to whom Hinduism was practically unknown and looked strange to them. They felt it to be a cult. However, with the grace of the Supreme Being, many of them, including local city-state authorities, began to express and appreciated our interest, and also joined hands with us in celebrating Hindu festivals and exchanged greetings during holiday seasons, leading to friendship with our neighbors. After establishing an outreach center, community center, senior center, canteen, and a weekend school, also known as the Ganesh Padashala. The temple caters to the local community and concentrates on not just providing the religious experience, but also the cultural, musical, dance, yoga, and meditation classes for the community. You can appreciate the architectural beauty of the stonework on either side as we're approaching the structure right in front of us, which is known as the Dwajastamba, or the flagpole, which is the golden colored pole that you can see. You can also see the vehicle of Lord Ganesha, who is known as Mushika and is facing towards Lord Ganesha. So we're going around the Dwajastamba now. A flag is usually hoisted during the major religious ceremonies and festivals to let the community know that a festival is taking place and invites them to join in. These are the wooden doors to the main entrance of the temple, as you can see. And as we come around the temple, you see the different forms of Ganesha adorning the sides of the temple as well. Now we're at the side entrance of the temple, as you can see, and I want to focus your attention on the gopuras, or the towers that you can see on the sides of the temple. So, as we're passing the side of the temple, you can see the Hindu Temple Society of North America's name, along with a shloka that we usually chant for peace, for all beings, and again at the top, you can see a gopura that I was talking about before. So like I said earlier, before the temple was built, the Orthodox Church was here, and the temple isn't only for religious purposes, but also for our community to gather. Weddings, various community events, weekend school, or like I said, the Ganesh Padashala, and much more take place here in the temple. As we come around the back side of the temple, you can see the Vimanas. Now we are ready to enter the Mahamandapam, which is the space which many consider to be most important because that's where you can find all the deities. A popular misconception in Hinduism is that we pray to many different gods, which isn't true. We actually pray to many manifestations of one god, so that's a popular misconception, that we're a polytheistic religion. And as we're going past the different structures, you can really appreciate the ornate designs. Everything was actually chiseled by hand by the artisans from India. And you can really appreciate the beautiful stonework encasing the various shrines and various murtis, which are the idols. Now we're nearing Lord Shiva's Sannidhi, and he's seen in this beautiful black granite stone. We're now bypassing Goddess Parvati, who's the consort of Lord Shiva. Now you're going towards the Navagraha Sannidhi, which are the 9 planets in layman's terms. And then circling back around to get into the Mahamantapa again, which is so beautifully done, I must say. Now we see Goddess Kamakshi, we can see Subramanya Swami with Valli and Devasena or his consorts. Again, all of these deities were done by hand, which makes this temple unique. Now we're looking at the Venkateshwara Swami Sannidhi, and again you can see this beautiful black granite work towards the sides, and also the Murti himself. He's known for his beautiful jewelry and his clothes and getting dressed up. And this is the main Sannidhi, Sri Mahavallabha Ganapati Sannidhi. This is all just 1/3 of what you can see. Another third is above the ceiling. It's in the shape of a dome. The final third is in the basement. And this is all just one structure. No cement, there's no adhesives that are keeping this whole place together. It's all an interlocking system that was built according to an ancient Vedic technique that has kept it sturdy despite any environmental condition. This is a very solid structure. And again, you can see the carvings that are all hand done with only a hammer and chisel. Now we're on the side of the Mahavallabha Ganapati Sannidhi. Lord Ganesha is actually the presiding deity of our temple, and so that's why he's right in the center of the Mahamantapa. You can see the fire worship, which is known as a homam. It's done every morning, but this is footage taken from the special festival that we celebrate each year, which is Ganesh Chaturthi. Now you can see an abhishekam done by the priest, in which we cleanse the Lord with milk, yogurt, and different dravyas, as we say. And this is vibhuti, which is holy ash. And the priest is drawing out the face of Lord Ganesha. You can start to see his face coming out with a tusk, and there he is, the beautiful elephant-faced Lord Ganesha. And this is what he looks like when the vibhuti, the holy ash, dries. This is one of the alankarams that happened during Ganesh Chaturthi, which in layman's terms is when we celebrate his birthday. This was a picture taken from the Chaturthi celebrations a few years ago, before COVID of course. Also in this picture, you can see all these kids who are on a tour of the temple. If they're taking a world religion class, they come over to get a tour. This is Open House New York from previous years. Here, you can see the different deities with their divine vehicles, or vahanas as we say. You can see Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu with their respective vehicles. And this is our Lord Sri Mahavallabha Ganapati and his beautiful alankaram. So we want to thank you so much for coming to this virtual tour with us. We hope this explains a little bit more about our faith and specifically the structures that make this temple so unique and so traditional, built according to the Agama Shastras. We invite you to go onto our webpage, nyganeshtemple.org, for more information. We would love for you to visit us in person. We are open a few hours every day for the devotees to come in and see our temple and get darshan, meaning to see. And we want you to get the divine sight of the Lord. And all the temple timings are on our website, and we look forward to seeing you at the temple. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed seeing the temple.
Thank you, Ravi. And we'll speak again with you a little later. All these religions may differ in form, but they're languages of love. They're doors to the divine, and it's wonderful and beautiful. And so we're going to knock on a new door now, and this is the door of the Sikh Center of New York. So that is located on Parsons Boulevard, and we'll be speaking with Harpreet Singh, another former head of our council, and he is accompanied by Jasveen Kaur Wahan to introduce the film. Not sure if the microphone will work for Jasveen, but we'll try. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Jasveen Kaur Wahan, and
yes,
welcome everyone to a Sikh Gurdwara. Gurdwara means door of the Guru, who eradicates darkness of ignorance and enlightens us with virtues and the glories of love and wisdom through Nam, which is Vaheguru. Today we'll visit the Gurdwara Guru Nanak Darbar.
So yes.
Welcome to the Gurdwara. Welcome to the Gurdwara, Sikh house of worship. This is how we enter a Gurdwara. The protocol is to take off your shoes in the designated places of the Gurdwara. Please put your shoes in the rack. After taking off the shoes, cover your heads with the piece of clothing which will be available there. In this socially quarantined world and socially distanced world, temperature checkers are there which will take your temperature, and accordingly we enter the Diwan Hall. In the Diwan Hall, everybody is socially distanced. We go ahead to go towards the Holy Book. This is the Holy Book which is installed. We take a bow. In front of Holy Book. Satsangat is socially distanced. This is the Holy Book which has been installed here. Holy Book is called Tan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which contains the teachings of 10 Sikh Gurus and other great personalities. Doing the Kirtan. Kirtan is the religious singing of the hymns from the Gurbani. Elders can sit over there in the place. Socially distanced Sangat is sitting there. There is a designated prashad place. And the langar is the institution of Sikhism. Because of the corona, it is being packed, and when the Sangat comes out, they will take it and take it home. It is packed over here. So the institution of langar was started by Dhan Guru Nanak Sahib with his 20 rupees investment, which is still paying on with all the gurdwaras in all the gurdwaras throughout the world. This is customary and mandatory that every person who enters the gurdwara, they would be eating the langar, be it rich or poor, high class or low class, or any caste, creed, or any faith or religion. They'll be eating together. In a non-corona world, we would eat together in the lines, sitting in the langar hall. But in this world, we are eating outside, still keeping the social distance. Thank you.
Thank you, and we can take your questions whenever you have. You can put your questions in the Q&A, and we can take it later. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Harpreet. And I hope we will have time for questions from all the houses of worship. That was a very beautiful visit. I felt like I was really there, and it brought back wonderful memories of your spiritual hospitality. Next, we have the International Buddhist Progressive Society, presented by Helen Long, and later on, the questions you have will be answered by the Venerable Yu Wang. Both of them are here with us today. Thank you very much. Helen.
I believe we have a video first before our PowerPoint. Thank you.
In the fall of 1991, Venerable Master Xing Yun led a group of respected monastics to the eastern United States to preach the Dharma. On a quiet block in the Flushing neighborhood of Queens, New York, they found and purchased a 20,000-foot, 5-story building. After renovation, the New York branch of the International Buddhist Progress Society, or IBPS, officially opened in 1993. The temple has a dedicated parking lot and is convenient to buses, subways, and trains with and into New York. When one enters IBPS New York, to the left of the lobby are a welcome center and the Water Drop Tea House. Within the information center, one finds shelves of neatly arranged books on Buddhism, biographies of eminent monastics, Tripitaka or Buddha scriptures, and various media, as well as majestic statues of the Buddha, artisanal handicrafts, and accessories such as pendants. The Water Drop Tea House is named after the Venerable Master's words of thanks to his teacher. A drop of water shall be returned with the burst of spring. Disciples and visitors can take time from their busy lives to relax and enjoy delicious vegetarian meals, coffees, and other refreshments. The tea house is a calm place to nurture leisure and a sense of community. On the second floor is the Tathagata Hall, where 200 people can gather to participate in recitals and prayer. The third floor is the Guanyin Hall, which has 200 seats and is both a library and a lecture hall to hear Buddha scriptures. The fourth floor holds a children's library and multi-purpose classrooms for Chinese school, Buddhist Light Scout troops, and other youth activities. In the basement, one finds a cafeteria which serves 200 people.
所以人讲佛教就希望这个佛教啊是属于人的，要能属于每一个家庭的。
Venerable Master Xing Yun advocates humanistic Buddhism, which affirms that Buddha was of this human world. It was where he was born, where he cultivated himself, where he was enlightened, and where he taught. Therefore, disciples of humanistic Buddhism follow Buddha's example and engage themselves in the human world. IBPS New York adheres to and promotes the 4 principles of humanistic Buddhism: Promote Buddhism through culture. Spreading the teachings of Buddhism to benefit people's lives through Buddhist bookstores, libraries, literature offices, and broadcast media. Cultivate talent through education. Educating and uplifting people and communities through the establishment of Buddhist colleges, schools, classes, and Buddhist Light Scout troops. Giving back to society through acts of service, helping those who are in disadvantaged circumstances, elderly, or affected by disasters through aid, relief, and our time and presence. Purify people's hearts through cultivation and practice, holding various Buddhist rituals and activities such as reciting mantras, meditation practices, and the 8 precepts. For almost 30 years, IBPS New York has led Venerable Master Xing Yun's mission to advance humanistic Buddhism so that the Buddhist light may shine on 3,000 realms and the Dharma stream will flow across all 5 continents.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Helen Yang. I'm a member of BLIA. BLIA members are committed to work alongside the Venerables of IBPS in their effort to propagate humanistic Buddhism through culture, education, charity, and cultivation. The main shrine located on the 2nd floor is the heart of our practice, from Dharma services, lectures, and to the blessing ceremony for young adults and children. Every year during Chinese New Year, we share our joy and hope for a new beginning with celebration of our culture, arts and craft, calligraphy, performance of songs, dance, theater. The event is free and open to the public. In May, we have our Buddhist birthday celebration ceremony. We welcome our neighbors to join us for a full day of fun activities and show, and to try out different vegetarian food. All are welcome to view the various exhibits of educational and cultural interest held on the 1st floor gallery and the children's art exhibit at the Children's Library on the 4th floor. Our annual summer camp at Deer Park, conducted by our young adult division, enable young children to have fun while learning. It also gives our youth opportunity to learn leadership skills. Our Chinese school program have served many young students over the years, helping them connect to our culture. Our Boys and Girls Scout troops are hard workers. You can often see them in the evenings and weekends during the school year. Youth at the temple join our young adult division to learn and grow with their peers. Our basketball team provides another opportunity for youth to learn about teamwork. Neighborhood school visit is another way we serve the community. 3 acts of goodness: do good deeds, say good words, and think good thoughts. This is the essential teaching and practice in all our programs. As part of our charity work, we have participated in United Nations Department of Global Communications Toys Drive to bring holiday cheers to dozens of children. School backpack filled with supply donated to students in the Bronx was another contribution to our community by our members. Masks and gloves were donated to a local hospital and nursing home in a mission to help our community to stay safe and protected. To serve our elders in the community, we have fresh produce delivered to them by our members. We also have coordinated donation from local produce distributor to other charities. To help purify our mind, we attend Dharma talks and serve as Dharma protector to our temple. Through our involvement in activity, BLIA member grow as Buddhists, become more aware and compassionate. With compassion and knowledge, we are able to serve others and to benefit our community. Our temple is located in East Fashion, 154-37 Blackley Avenue. We welcome your visit once we open in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Okay, then keeping to our regular program, we have one more presentation, and that is John Cho, who has long been one of our most important leaders in the Flushing Interfaith Council, but also director of the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Flushing, and our partner along with the Jewish Community Council Flushing in providing special aid to food pantries. The pandemic is ongoing and may get worse, so I'm going to take this moment to put out a petition that John helped us put out on increasing assistance for food in the community. The many soup kitchens that are operating are unfortunately struggling to survive, and they really need more assistance. And so I'm putting this link here. It's a petition asking city government to put more resources out there for the people of Flushing, since of course the community was very hard hit by the pandemic in the spring, and the situation may again get worse. So anyway, I'll turn over the microphone to John to speak about his community, the Quaker community of Flushing.
Thank you, Adam. I want to join my Buddhist, Sikh, Hindu, and Jewish colleagues in celebrating the amazing diversity of our community. Many scholars have noted that Flushing has the most concentrated and most diverse group of houses of worship in the entire United States. And so today's wonderful virtual Interfaith Unity Walk organized by the Flushing Interfaith Council is really a wonderful opportunity to learn about these amazing temples and mosques and houses of worship. Our house of worship, the Quaker Meeting House in downtown Flushing on Northern Boulevard, is the oldest house of worship in New York. And we have prepared a special virtual tour led by our presiding clerk, Jeffrey Guyton. So please enjoy.
Welcome in. Thanks for joining our virtual tour. I'm Jeff Guyton, and I'm the clerk of Flushing Monthly Meeting. And welcome to Flushing Friends Meeting House, which is also known as the old Quaker Meeting House. Thanks for joining us, and we really hope that when COVID is over, you come and physically meet with us and take a tour with us in person. So welcome in, and the first thing you might notice when you enter the gate is the stark contrast between crazy busy Northern Boulevard, and I drove over on the LIE, and then when you enter the meeting house grounds, it's an oasis. It's peaceful, and it's a transition from a very hustle bustle, busy dog-eat-dog world into the very peaceful environs of the Quaker Meeting House. Now, the next thing that you might wonder about, why there's no entrance to the building facing Northern Boulevard. And that's an analogy to Quaker worship, in that the central belief of Quakers is that every human being has an inner light. And when Quakers worship, they sit as a community in silence and they turn inward to receive divine guidance, the inner light. So it makes sense that you would turn away from the busyness of the world and Flushing Boulevard in order to connect to what Quakers call the divine inner light. So turning toward the entrance to the meeting house, you may notice a new banner. And aside from the central belief in the inner light, Quakers do not have a creed. Instead, they have testimonies that are sometimes referenced to spices: simplicity, peace, integrity, community, equality, and stewardship. And you have seen on the porch boxes, those are for our CSA food distribution, which takes food from farmers to people, and we do that every Thursday night here at the porch of the meeting house. The belief in the inner light is at the heart of the Quaker belief in equality. And although I mentioned that Quakers turn inward in prayer, they believe that they must then go out into the world to act upon the divine guidance that they've received. The Quaker belief in the inner light and the Quaker testimonies account for the reason that Quakers have been at the forefront of the abolition movement, women's suffrage, the civil rights movements, and the many movements for equality that continue to this day. So we're walking into our worship space now. And here we sit for an hour or more, an hour. Sometimes it's silent, and frequently people may stand and minister from the inner light or what message may come to them through their contemplation. I mentioned that the burial ground was purchased and donated by John Bound in 1676. John Bound's house was built in 1661 and stands just a couple of blocks away. John Bound and John Rodman purchased the land for building the meeting house in 1692, and the first meeting in the meeting house occurred in November of 1694. Quakers held their meetings at John Bound's house for 30 years prior to the building of this meeting house, but some very important events took place prior to building this meeting house. In 1657, a Quaker named Henry Townsend was arrested, imprisoned, and fined for holding Quaker meetings in his home. The area was under the jurisdiction of Peter Stuyvesant, who thought that everyone should belong to the Dutch Reformed Church and had forbidden anyone from holding a Quaker meeting or to host a Quaker in one's home. In response to this persecution, the town clerk, the sheriff, and 28 other settlers drafted a document calling for religious freedom and an end to religious persecution. That document, as you may well know, is known as the Flushing Remonstrance, and it was signed December 27, 1657. The town clerk was jailed and banished, and the other signers were heavily fined. It is worth noting that several signers of this important document later became Quakers. John Bound, whose wife Hannah Feek had become a Quaker, allowed Quaker meetings to take place in his home despite knowing the risks. This led to his arrest in 1662, when he was imprisoned and fined. Being a prisoner of conscience, John Bound refused to pay the fine and refused to leave when his prison door was left open. This led to his banishment. He was put on a boat to Holland, but told that he could get off wherever he wished. After going to Ireland and England, he made his way to Holland, where he met with the representatives of the Dutch West India Company that had granted the charter to establish the settlement at Flushing. There, he presented his case for religious freedom. As a result, the Dutch West India Company sent a letter to Peter Stuyvesant in 1663, ending the persecution of Quakers and establishing the right to religious freedom and freedom of conscience. So the Flushing Remonstrance is seen by many people as a precursor to our Bill of Rights, drafted over 100 years before our Constitution was adopted in 1787. It's perhaps fitting to end our tour with a reproduction of the original of the Flushing Remonstrance. The edges were burned in a fire, but thankfully this plea for religious freedom survives today. This document and John Bound's banishment led to the famous response of the Dutch West India Company to Governor Stuyvesant, which stated, "The consciences of men at least ought ever to remain free and unshackled." Both documents are important precursors to the freedom of religion and separation of church and state established in the Bill of Rights. The Flushing Friends Meeting House was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1967 and a New York City landmark in 1978. So I hope that you'll join us in person someday when it's safe to do so. And you'll be welcome to experience a Quaker meeting, then a little bit of coffee and some fellowship afterwards. When COVID is over, we really hope to embrace you in person. For now, you're more than welcome to join us on Zoom on Sundays, and to do so, we worship from 11 to noon, as we always do in person here. And then our fellowship is 12 to 1. So on Zoom now, we worship from 11 to 12. And if you'd like to join us sometime, just the email is jeffreyguyton@hotmail.com. That's jeffreyguyton@hotmail.com. If you email me, I can send you the Zoom link to get on, and we would love to join you for a gathered and spiritually resonant worship experience. Thanks so much for joining us on our virtual tour today, and we look forward to meeting you soon.
Oh, sorry. John, does anyone have any questions for John? John, would you like to add anything?
No, I want to participate in the Q&A, so let's go straight to that.
Okay, so I did see a couple of questions. There was one for Ravi. If you just give me, you're right, to Ravi. The question was from Rosemary Newberry. She asked, do the deities ever leave the temple?
Yes, during festival and event times, we used to carry it on the streets. And this is basically to create a facility that people, those who are not in a position to visit the temple due to some physical illness or due to such reasons. So the deity is taken around so that everyone can see the deity right from their home and get the blessings. There's only metallic deities out there. There are two types of deities. One is structured in metallic structure, another one is stone structure. Stone structure cannot be disturbed. It will be fixed on a pedestal. Only the metallic structure is taken around. Thank you.
Thank you. Then there's another question, but I'm kind of thinking it goes for all, whoever wishes to answer, or we can just share the question amongst all. How does your religion adapt to American cultures? And how are you doing during this during the corona pandemic?
I can take the first stab and then others can follow. So I would say, as in our presentation, we showed langar, and John definitely will follow on this, and that's what the petition is all about. When we are in such a environment and in such a situation, our metal, our spiritualism shows up. And then that is the real test of humanity. That is the real test of religion. That is the real test of one's faith, that this is a time to embrace everybody. This is a time to share with everybody, especially those less fortunate ones who have this poverty of food or those things. And this is the time when we all have to come out of our shells or wells of religion and faith and on a broader spectrum of humanity and share our values and share our food and all the materialistic riches with others also. John, you can add on to.
Sure. Thank you, Harpreet. I actually agree wholeheartedly with my colleague that one of the great things about our faith community is that we are responding in meaningful ways to the tragedy unfolding around us during this pandemic. Many of us know people who have passed away, including our elders, our senior citizens. We have witnessed many people lining up for emergency food assistance. We are currently feeding 10,000 people at La Jornada, one of the food pantries in downtown Flushing. Our members have stepped up. I know recently we had a delivery of 10 pallets of food from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they have been tremendous in supporting our local community, and other congregations have also stepped up to do the same. And I'm really inspired and overwhelmed by all the religious organizations and houses of worship who are actually providing leadership during this time, because unfortunately our government has really failed us, and so our community has to help ourselves if we are going to survive and get through this pandemic. So I just want to express my thanks to all of the people who are on this call. I know many of you, including Adam Carroll, were instrumental in getting $20,000 in emergency funding from the Robin Hood Foundation, which we were able to utilize at the very initial stages of the pandemic to provide emergency relief service, and we'll continue to provide and try and secure additional resources to help our community. So thank you very much for everyone who stepped up.
See, our temple, Hindu temple, has always been open to help people, especially in terms whenever there is a calamities, whether it is flood or earthquake or now COVID. We have been always be with the people to help them in various needs. The other times we normally help people to address their spiritual need, educational needs, and cultural needs, tradition needs, like that. Now, during this kind of things, we are always with people. We do, as Harpreet was showing in his temple, distributing food. We also do it every day without discriminating. Whether people, you don't discriminate people whether they are hunger or not hunger, but we give food for all because it's a basic necessity. Whether people are rich or poor is not the question. Everyone should be fed with food. So we do it every day, and during this kind of COVID calamities, we pack the food and go and distribute food everywhere.
Does anybody else want to add?
Yeah, I think I can answer and the question, and also I saw another questions on the Q&A. For the IBPS, and then we do a lot of educational programs, and then trying to connecting with our local community, and then in our local culture, and then so we open our door before the pandemic every day, and then to all our anyone come from our community. There doesn't have to become a member, or because the one of the mission we carry is not just the spread out the humanistic Buddhism, and it's also about the cultural. And then we want to keep in the cultural, and then and showing the cultural, and then you use the cultural elements to connect it with all different people from different world, especially in the New York, in Flushing. So I think this is how we're trying to do it. Even though actually even during this pandemic, we did not really totally close and shut down. We put everything on the YouTube. Our service, our Dharma service, our Buddhism classes, and then even our cooking class, cooking lessons, and then all the educational programs, and we put on the internet, we put on the YouTube. And it's not just that, we're connecting with our 26 temple branches within the North America. And then we all even host a musical contest. Just happened a couple last week. So we did not stop our steps, and then we keep working, and then we're not just locally, and then helping our community. As during the PowerPoint you have been seeing, we are doing we donating like I think like a 280,000 masks, and then to our NYPD, FDNY, and then including the New York City governments. So we do everything because we are internationally organization. Our Buddhist order, even though our headquarters and then is in Taiwan, and then but our our BLIA, our lay people's organization headquarters in the California. So we use all the strengths we could, and then lift up our community, tried everyone. We can do as and helping people spiritually, and then also we cannot just, we also have to do things to support them in their daily lives. So we're continuing to work on that and continuing to do that, and then including join this Unity walk, and then we hope later on we can have something we can put on the maybe Flushing Interfaith Council, your website. We can let our community people to come and then to join, to enjoy, to celebrate, and to know more about the events we can join. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add?
Sure. Sukes. Hello. Oh. Hello. Can everyone hear me? Hello. Oh, okay, great. So I think the first question was how does our religion, how is it adapted to American society? Well, look at me. I'm a gay Asian Jew practicing Judaism in the United States. I think that's a statement as to how far we've come and how we have adapted to the environment that we are in, which is, practicing in the United States. So we are open and we are willing to adapt to whatever comes to America, meaning whoever comes to America. And I think that is what's really important, because nobody has a monopoly on religion, right? What defines us is how we relate to God. And I think at the end of the day, if you came to America, you're looking for something better. And I think that is how we have adapted to practicing our religion in the United States. And it goes, the second question is, how have we adapted to the coronavirus? I think a rabbi once told me that the greatest mitzvah, the greatest deed you can do is always unknown, right? So sometimes we want to say what we do, but sometimes what we do really can be silent. Not everyone needs to know everything, but our congregation has sent out care packages, we donate, we have an elderly contingency, so we try to reach out to them as much as possible. So it's everyone is facing a challenge and everyone is doing such an amazing job. But we have to remember that we all are in this together and you do your part. And religion is what builds a stronger community. And yeah, that's how we've adapted, by continuing to practice and allowing our members to practice in a different way that they're not used to, which is Zoom or digitally. So yeah.
Thank you, Zooks. There was another question that was asked besides COVID. Are there any special challenges? What are the special challenges? And what are your 2020 programs? Would anybody like to answer that?
Excuse me, I think you mentioned about it should be the 2021 program, right? For the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
No,
think
the question said 2020, so if you wish to go for 2021, go for it.
Okay. I think for the 2021, and then from our program, you can see normally our Chinese New Year celebrations is a kind of like a big deal for our communities. And then it's also a good timing to people to know about more about the Chinese culture. For our 2021 program, we would still trying to do our best. But we have something we can say is a big surprise we're going to give to our community people, and then to still have the chance to get to know about the Chinese culture. And then continuing, and as we say, and for the educational programs, everything we're hosting online right now. even including our scouting meetings and learning in the Chinese school. Everything in it is so we put on the YouTube and the website. So we will see. We have to follow the government's policy, and then we'll try to do our best. And then, but for everything what we can do, and then try to keep everyone spiritually strong. And then that's what we will do for no matter how the situation scenario might happen or be. And then, but we will do everything we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add? I just want to reiterate the importance of I'm hoping somebody could possibly post the link for the petition. As John said, Flushing is in their pantries are running low, and more people are being are hungry, and they need assistance. So I'm just asking again if you can help Flushing Interfaith Council and sign the petition. And hopefully have more government support. Does anybody else want to add further discussion? Okay, I would like to conclude the Unity Walk. Ravi from the Hindu Temple of North America offered to lead us in prayer for a closing prayer.
Namaste. It's my privilege and honor to lead today's closing prayer. So my prayer is from verses from Ganapati Atharva Sirsha Upanishad. I'm going to give you directly in English so that everyone can understand. O gods, may we hear auspicious words only with our ears. While we engage in worship, may we see only auspicious things with our eyes. While praising the gods with our strong limbs, may we enjoy a life that is only beneficial to all. May Lord of gods of ancient fame be auspicious to us. May the supremely all-knowing God of the earth be propitious to us. May the destroyer of evil be well disposed towards us. May preceptor of the God ensure our welfare. May peace prevail everywhere. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. There is one more prayer during conclusion, now being in election time. So there is a moral code of conduct for leaders to lead the nation. Leaders who live with qualities such as enthusiasm, adventure, courage, intelligence, strength, bravery, and aggression will always have the support of the Supreme Lord Almighty and also the people, says Niti Shastra. Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings be happy. God bless all of you and everyone. Namaste and thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. I just want to thank all our panelists and for all our attendees, for all that came to for Flushing Interfaith Unity Walk virtual. At this, I'm wishing everyone peace for all, and everyone have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you from Hindu Temple.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Omitofo.